Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wizerr, where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing, but with all thy wisdom, get understanding. And with all thy getting, get understanding. So here we are once again, hoping that you can access wisdom for your life and relationships. Oh, Nita, how you doing today?
Good evening. I'm doing wonderful. Wonderful. How are you doing?
I sure am doing. Okay, so we're excited because we have an episode that we have been trying to get to you all for a couple months now. As you all know, those of you who've been around for a while, on January 23rd, we were scheduled to record a live episode in person because I was in Richmond and everything was set to go except technology wouldn't work and we couldn't stream and you all were waiting for quite a long time and it just never worked. So we did record it, but then it took us a while to get the recording. And let me just warn you that the issue with the recording was they were trying to fix the sound. Whatever happens with the mic, we don't know. The sound is not great, particularly at the beginning. And so if you haven't headphones or an external speaker, you should try to connect that right now because we'll play that. Once it kind of goes along, you get used to it and then it gets louder. But I'm just telling you, we still wanted you to see it because it was a great episode. So we thank you for being here once again. At this time, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the lowdown for the updates. But before I do that, let me say I have to leave early because I have an engagement that I have to go to. And so Onita is going to take us away. And then we have special guest, recurring guest, Hayden will be here. And Tracey, who's on this episode and who initiated this episode, is here to just further discuss the book. So I know that will be a great conversation. Thank you, Onita, for that.
Got you, girl.
All right. So here we are, low down for the update. Well, I'm going to be brief and brilliant. So still working with Pastor Leggett. And this week we were role playing that first encounter. And specifically for this event that I will be attending on Saturday night in Orlando, it is a black tie event. And I'm excited about going because I don't get to go to things like that. Yes. And I'm going to be around a whole bunch of people, hundreds of people that I've never met before. And so that's a little scary, but I'm going to be at a training on Friday. Then they have the event on Saturday night. And I said, hey, he said, I'll give you a free ticket. And I said, I'm going to go. So we've been role playing what I should say and how I should navigate if someone asks for my phone number. So I'm excited to tell you all what happens on that journey when I get back, if that happens next week. So that's the brief but brilliant update.
I can't wait.
Me either. So at this time, we're going to jump into our episode and we're going to watch with you and then we'll come back. Well, Onita will come back and we'll talk about it. Enjoy. I hope you really enjoyed this episode because we really enjoyed doing it.
Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wizerr, where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. And so we are here every week to provide wisdom to you. We are happy to be here live together for the first time ever, recording in the same space. Look at this lovely set. Shout out to CEO. And we are so happy to be here. Hey, y'all. Hey. Well, as you well know, we've had some technical difficulties. So you all were there waiting for us, and we were waiting to be with you, but we were not able to. So this is the next best thing. So I have my co-host here. What's your
Oh, see y'all.
Ebony Wilkins. Renee Warren. And we have a special guest today. Tracey Hemmings is going to be rounding out the crew.
Yes.
Happy to be here. So, how have you all been?
Been good. I'm blessed. Highly favored.
Good, the week has been weekend. Life has been life. It's good. Yeah, I've been good as well. Beautiful faces and smiles. Yeah.
Yes.
You too. I love this set. Do you all love this?
Yes.
I'm all professional and
Yes.
nice.
Love it.
We are so grateful. We are here to talk about a wonderful book called For Women Only. But before we do that,
Come on.
you know what time it is, Renee? What time is it? It's time for the lowdown on the update. Yeah! So, as you all know, I am on an intentional dating journey because I am ready to be married.
Right.
Find the person that God has for me. And so, I've been on the dating sites. Womp womp. But I do have an update for you all.
All right. Deep.
I talked to a pastor a couple of days ago, probably Friday, and I invited him to be on the program. So he's going to be on the program actually on February 20th, I believe the date is. But he does a coaching program for single women to help them to really understand how to be the woman that they need to be, to find the husband that they want. And he's awesome. Like, he's all about women. He likes to lift women up and teach them how to hold their power until the time to release their power. Until when he says, "Will you marry me?" Pretty much. And he's had like rave reviews. We had some. He did a webinar a couple of weeks ago. Actually, he's done 3. Last Sunday he did another one. But he's had some of his clients come on and talk about their experience, and most of them like get married soon after. He doesn't necessarily help you find the person.
Right.
He will if he can, but his goal is to get you ready. Right. And I really love what he talks about and how. So I'm just like, I'm really about to join his program. 12 weeks. And he coaches, and he coaches people beyond the 12 weeks. It's supposed to be a group coaching program, but he actually does one-to-one as well to help you. He's had people call. He told a story where a friend of a friend, she called and said, "Hey, my friend is on the side of the road crying because of some guy." He said, "Tell her to call me." She calls, and he's like, "I'm going to tell you what to do. Do this, say this." He tells her what to say. She says it. And the guy ends up asking her to marry him, like almost.
Wow.
What were those words?
And on the program. Like, I need a little more context. But let me tell you, the thing that's so interesting, he started because of his daughter. His daughter called him one day bawling. And he's like, he knew it was because of a guy. She'd been listening with this guy. And basically, God was taking advantage of her and abusing her. And, she was just giving all her power away to him. And so he said, when you are sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Come on.
you call me back. He said, it took her 6 months, but she called me. And I said, say this. And he's like, and then call me right back. This is what's going to happen. She's like, that's not going to happen. Call me back. She called the guy and she said, this is over. Because the guy was just playing her. It's been years. It's like, this is over. And she hung up. He's like, he was like, what do you mean? And she's like, wait. And he called she said he was at her door.
Come on.
He was at her door in like minutes. And within an hour, he was at the door, like, no, no, no. She's like, yeah.
Right.
And she was done. She called it that. He's like, I told you. I told you. And so I love that he's about uplifting women, giving the power back. Because a lot of times we give that over to men. I mean, I don't tend to do that, but there are things I can learn from him that I've already learned from him. So I'm really interested. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out how we're going to pay for that. And I'm going to join. So
That's a great update. Awesome.
I can't wait till you join because I got questions. I got
he actually helps married women too.
Well,
Regain their power when they are having trouble in their marriage.
I mean, I think I know this not where we're
No,
going.
we go.
Anywho, I'm thinking like, so is he also talking to women about like disconnecting when it's time to disconnect? So
That's
not just
what
like
he did to his daughter.
right. So,
Yes.
okay, so that's what I'm trying.
Yeah.
I wanted
like
to understand
sometimes
whether or not
you need to say this to get it popping.
right.
Sometimes you need to say this to get it going.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
get it gone,
Okay.
get it gone.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and so he also helps, married women. He does married retreat and all this as well. So yeah, it's really good. So I'm excited. I'm excited about it for you.
Yeah. Sounds
And
very
very
exciting.
intentional. I think you put it out there in the atmosphere. Now here this time comes. It's just the next step to it. So
Yeah, a lot of stuff has been coming, and I've been learning a lot of things that I need to know, and so I'm excited about that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm
Very
looking
cool.
forward
I'm
to
looking
it.
forward to it too.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we could be having us a fall or winter wonderland.
I need to know, girls. I get
That would be awesome. Right. Yeah.
I'm big into do.
You know what they say is stay ready so you don't gotta give it.
Okay.
That's the journey we're on. Yeah.
So today this is kind of the similar topic because we're going to be talking about a wonderful book by Shaunti Feldhahn, where it's called For Women Only. She also wrote one called For Men Only. She's written several books. I actually just read a book that she wrote called something about I can't remember, The Secrets of Marriage or something like that.
I think I have that.
And it was talking about how the stats around marriage are really not the way that you say that we think they are. We've been told 50% of marriages end in divorce, and she's like, that's not true. She actually did the research and found out like those numbers were basically estimates, and they came up from the 70s or the 80s, and we were still using them, and we were still repeating them all the time. And she's like, no, that's not true. But she wrote this book For Women Only, and I think I had heard of it, but I know I heard of it, but I hadn't read it yet. And then Tracey brought it up to me, and so she's like, "This is a fantastic book. You have to read it because it's about teaching women about men, things that men wish that women knew that they don't know." And it has quite a lot of fantastic information in there. So Tracey, talk about a little bit about just kind of how you came to it and just why this was so inspired you to want to be on the program, because we've asked Tracey to be on the program before. We want Tracey to be on the program. Tracey's our buddy. But this was the thing that triggered me out. Like, I want to do it. So talk about that.
Well, actually, I was listening to a sermon on YouTube, Pastor Snell, and he recommended this book. And I'm married, and so I said, you know what? Let me check this book out. He was doing a series on marriage and relationship, and so I purchased the book, read the book, and my mind was blown. I was really just totally in awe of the information that was there. I wasn't sure that there would be anything in there that I could learn new about men. But there was a whole lot of things that I didn't realize about men. I felt so convicted after reading the book that I went to my husband and I apologized to him. And I just developed this greater or deeper empathy for men and their feelings, because men have feelings too.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we think like maybe
Yeah.
only women have feelings.
Yes.
But men actually they're human beings and they have feelings too. And so I really developed a greater empathy for them. And so I was like, I have to share this book with my friends. I mean, immediately shot the text out to you guys saying, hey, this is an awesome book. You have to read this book. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So you all have read the book. Just give me your initial thoughts. I'll start with Renee. Give me your initial thoughts about the book. First of all, when you heard about the book, before you even read it, like what were your thoughts, and then share some of the things that you got from it.
When I first heard about the book for women only, I didn't really think anything in particular. For women only, I really didn't think anything. I was just open to reading it and hearing, what it had, to share with us. But one of the thoughts that I had, speaking of the gentleman talking about teaching women to hold their power, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading the book. I was like, women, it's not that we have like a huge responsibility, but we have a huge influence over the men and how they pretty much just kind of operate, in their lives. We're talking about their behaviors, their moods, their motivation. There's just so much. When I walked away, I was like, wow, women really do play a major role in their men's lives. So I thought that was a good takeaway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually heard the same sermon that T watched, and it was first. So when I first heard about the book, because of who I was hearing it from Pastor Snell, I knew it was going to be good.
Oh yeah.
So I was like taking notes on it, and it was like on my list of things to buy. And then I think we were having a conversation about it, and now and then, kind of raving about it. I'm like, let me see what you got on for real. Yeah, it's legit. And it's like things that my husband and I have been, this is our 26th year. And so things that he has said to me that I kind of, like I heard, but don't know that I received. And so reading this book was like solidifying and affirming so many of the things that he said to me. And I was really just kind of like, I mean, there were some mind-blowing moments, and particularly I think around the sensitivity of men.
Yeah.
Like that men really are very sensitive, and I don't know that I've had a full understanding of that until I read the book.
Yeah, at first I seeing the title initially, I thought it was like a girl power. Like, yes, women. But I mean, I don't know if there was an introduction. I don't even know if this was chapter 1, but I immediately too. It's like, dang, I need to apologize to my husband because, and also this. I think I said it to some of you ladies. You were like, let's not talk a lot about it now, but I was like, so many arguments could have been saved. But many times, like she says in the book, men need to pull away first to process. And I wanted to finish that thing right there. And then now my feelings are hurt because I was trying to pull away, but I'm like, no, let's finish it down. That was just one of the things. I would say that, but I will tell you like immediately, I forget what chapter it is, when she talked about sex and the importance it is to men and how it's not really just about the physical, but a needing to connect, a needing to connect emotionally. Yeah. That I was like, oh, this is what's happening. Okay. Because I was just thinking like, I'm so tired. Like, why? But not about the physical. It's really about the emotional part of it. And knowing that my husband might have been feeling like I don't love her. That because, and she talks about that too, knowing that me being tired, saying I don't want to do this, but saying to him that not even that I didn't want to connect, that I don't desire it.
Right.
And understanding that he's going out here every single day doing tampering and to come home and he don't act so much.
Rejected.
Right. He don't act so much. And to feel like he's leaving saying he's feeling that I don't desire him. And I got a damn good look at him.
That's right.
Say that. I appreciate everything he does, but understanding that I can say that in words But the fact that if he's
Yes.
feeling like
Yes.
on the daily or
Yes.
every other day, you're gonna feel like it's every day. That that I was kind of saying like, oh wait, or I got different excuses around it. He's not here another, and I've said it before in that episode. He's like, leave the dishes in the sink. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't care about these things. And she
Right.
talks
You
about
care
it in the
about
book too.
that.
I don't
Yeah.
care about it. Like, get rid of the to-do list and
Right.
let's just connect because it just would help him feel the love and respect that he should be feel because I do feel that way about her. Like that hit me. So I'm telling you, he was on the train and I texted and I was like, hey.
It's on and popping.
You get it.
And it would be well rested. And I will tell you, it threw him left because it's normally like I dropped the kids off, this is what's going on. And I was just like, hey, thinking about you, I love you. So what time you come home tonight? He was like, oh, about 6 or whatever. And I was like, okay, so everybody should be asleep. So I was like, all right, see you at 9 o'clock. And he was like, what?
You said what?
His mother, he would take it a step further. He put it in the iPhone calendar. He said, why did you invite? I said, well, I accepted it. I was like, I ain't doing no dishes tonight. The laundry can wait because I need to make sure this brother's going out here knowing his wife appreciates, desires him, and loves him because
I love it.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So good.
Well, I'm just gonna outline the 8 revelations that this book shares, and then I'm gonna ask Tracey to dive in and just kind of talk about the first one, maybe that jumped out at you. So the 8 revelations is that it's men need respect. I'm like, okay, everybody knows that, but this is what it really means. They would rather feel unloved than inadequate and disrespected. Men are insecure. They, as confident as they look, they suffer from imposter syndrome. They suffer from insecurity. That's the truth of it. On the surface, as men avoid issues by checking out. And what's really happening is they process by pulling back first, thinking through the facts, because they can't process facts and feelings at the same time. So they got to process the facts, process the feelings, and then come back and say, how can we have this conversation? Number 4, men are providers, but it's really, they feel the mental burden of taking care of the family, regardless of if you make enough money to take care of everyone else.
Right.
Even if they don't work and you all agreed to that, they still feel a burden to take care of the family. Number 5, men want more sex. Yeah. But your sexual desire for him affects his confidence in everything. When he goes out in the world like, I got this, the she went through. Number 6, men are visual. And even happily married men struggle with live or recollected images of women. And there's women, clad in many different ways, and these things stay in their mind even when they try to avoid it, they can't. And so now having to deal with that. Men are unromantic, where many men enjoy, in fact, I think it was like 84% men enjoy romance. They want romance. They sometimes want it differently than women want it, but they also feel like they don't know how to give it to their wife in the way that they want it. So they feel like they fail when they try to be romantic.
Right.
And number 8, men care about appearance. And it says you don't need to be a size 4, but you need to make consistent effort toward taking care of yourself. So let's start with just number 1, Tracey. Men need respect. Where were you on that, and where did you land after listening to the book? And we all can answer that as well. I mean, well, let me just say, Tracey's married, Ebony's married, Onita's married, Renee and I are single, but we've had relationships with men or whatever. So we'll answer from that perspective. Go ahead, Tracey.
Yeah, so that's a big one. That's a huge one. In my household, and my husband, he has said it, like I want you to be respectful. Like if if we're having a disagreement and you raise your voice, to me, that's disrespectful, and so it's like I've heard him say it, but I don't think I really process it, because again, I'm more focused on what I'm trying to say and what I want to communicate as opposed to, really hearing him. And so, again, that was a part of why I had to go and apologize to him, because I felt so convicted on the importance of men feeling respected. Like you said, in order for them to feel adequate, to feel competent, and so, feeling disrespected is equivalent to a man, and she indicates this in the book, of being unloved.
Yeah.
Like if you are disrespectful to your man, he's not gonna feel loved. And so just the value and importance of that. It was like, wow, that's so good. Something that you hear all the time. Of course, we, you know, read some text in the Bible, where Paul talks about women, husbands love your wives and women respect your husbands. And you just kind of gloss over it because maybe you think you're doing it and you don't recognize that there may be some ways that you're not respecting him. And so just to be more cognizant of that, I'm definitely more cognizant of it now since reading the book.
I think also like understanding that respect looks different for every man.
Yes.
Like to T's example of raising a voice, like we don't do that in our marriage. And there are definitely ways that I have disrespected him, and I did not see those things. I didn't see them. I felt like I was doing what was right in the moment, but he received it completely different. And I'm like, I'm not cursing you or hollering at you or whatever. In my mind, I'm thinking that's that's what disrespect is. But he was like, nah, sis, it's different for me. Like this is what makes me feel disrespected when you do this or you don't do that. Just like, wow, it's the mind.
Right.
Yeah, I love the example she gave. It's very trivial, but I'm also a practical person about directions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby.
Yes.
You in love, take a road trip. Anybody out there dating, y'all in love, but take a road trip. It's going to test you in ways that you like. Because that will test you. And I mean, we've been married 24 years, together 27, and I just got a clue, okay? Because I'm big on directions. Like, I need to look at the next 4 steps before I even proceed. Because, sometimes it comes up quick. Especially if that North Virginia, that 395, 495, don't do it to me. Okay? But that directions thing, when she made a point to say, even about the directions, the man would much rather figure it out, drive around. But if you over here keep nagging, why don't you just pull over and ask somebody? Or why don't you just pull over and ask somebody? They see it as disrespect. And I can tell you, my husband has felt this way in years past. I mean, and not just that, me having my own break over here, and me grabbing something over here, and it's sometimes really not that serious. I actually drive faster than him. I know I do. But I'm controlling it. Like, it's just different. But what I'm saying is, now I see that it wasn't just an annoyance, it's he felt disrespect. And so just moving differently. And that space again, because it's like, flip it down. If he was doing it and doing it made you feel unloved, how would you?
Exactly.
And I was just like, okay, Lord, I'm the victory between that and the praying forward.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, first of all, I was listening to the audiobook, so I'm not actually I didn't actually go through the book, so I don't know where certain things fall. But I'm thinking that this is one of the parts where the woman has a lot of responsibility to not jump the gun. To take the time and try to listen and trust the process, right? Because there are certain things that they were doing, like one of the examples that she gave was about the son going to bed with no shirt on. Right. And she's just like, but he's gonna be cold. Like, why would you do that? I'm a mom and this is how I think. But trust the process. So instead of like jumping on the father, she's just like, you know what, tell me more. Like, I need to understand what you're doing. And he's like, well, he's been asking me for a few days to go to bed. Mind you, mom is out of town. But the son has been asking for a few days to go to bed without his shirt on. And so I said, tonight, I'm going to go ahead on and let him do it. Yes, I, as the father, I know it's going to get cold. I know he's going to get cold. That's why I'm having him sleep in the bed with me. And when he gets cold, the shirt is here. He will put it on, right? So I'm going to just let him learn the lesson tonight. So had she automatically jumped on him, like, what are you doing? He only, in taking that approach, the outcome could have been totally different.
Yeah,
As far as
definitely.
the impact that would have had on him as a father,
Right.
you know, not feeling trusted to make these decisions or to do,
Right.
you know, do these. So again, when we're talking about the respect, if this is the section that she was talking
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
the woman does have a huge responsibility to stop
Yeah.
Right.
and listen, ask questions before again we jump the gun and assume they don't know what they're doing or
Right.
they're taking
Yeah.
too long or why
Right.
did you do that? So I thought that was really important. So again, I'm a single woman. You guys are in, you know, in the mix and all that. But yeah, I'm taking notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On what to do when we actually finish this.
No, I
Definitely
agree. I think that I was going to say two things. And I was going to reference that same story.
Right.
I think that it's important. A lot of things can be resolved by asking just one more question.
Yes.
So that's just in life.
Yes. Yeah.
But the other thing, I just did a presentation to a couples group on Sunday, and one of the things that we talked about as the foundation of we were talking about creating a safe space, but I'm not interested in that. Let's create a safe marriage. Because a safe space indicates, okay, when we're having this conversation, I need to be safe. No, in every part of my marriage, I need to be safe.
Yes.
So how do we create a foundation of that? And I said the absolute foundation is that you trust each other's intentions.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's not about is he going to cheat or is he going do I trust your intentions?
Yeah.
Because when you trust someone's intentions, you give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You think, okay, he's a great father and a great husband and he's smart. He's not just going to let this kid freeze to death, you know? So I trust his intentions toward me. I trust them toward our children. So
Yeah.
now I ask one more question to get clarity. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. When I read that, as soon as she said the scenario, I'm just like, he's teaching him a lesson because he's been asking. Because I think a lot like I see the 360 a lot of times because I do so many marriage seminars and because I study all the time. I've been reading this stuff. So I already saw that that's what he was doing without her finishing the story. But that helps me when I get married. You know, I already have that. But I just think that one more question, because you're just like, I trust this person. I trust that they mean well and that they're doing well, or even their intention is just to do well. So when I ask that one additional question, then I'm like, okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love that because that makes me think back to last week when we were talking to Ernest James and he was talking about submission. You know, like people like really shed this negative light on submission, but at the end of the day, he was saying, you decide who you marry. You choose him. So you decide who you are submitting to. So hopefully you're choosing someone that you trust, you know, in all the ways. So when my son goes to bed with no shirt on, honey, I trust you. You know?
I think it's a balance to that though, because sometimes you don't need to ask another question. Sometimes you need to hear what they say and respect what they're saying and what they're doing and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that one more question can be that question that leads them to thinking that you don't trust them.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Definitely. Definitely.
I do agree with that. And there are just times that you do need clarity, just in all relationships, as opposed to going away having some resentment or whatever like that. So yeah, I agree there's balance in that. So the next issue is, I don't know if we're going to get through all 8. So tell me one that you thought was another one that was pretty significant or just eye-opening for you.
Sure. The one about men needing to pull away to process before
Let's go.
engaging and having the conversation. I'll share a little example of my real life concerning that. Actually, this past Sabbath,
It's really recent.
Just read the book. So, I said to my husband, oh, you're ready to get up to, get dressed for Sabbath school. And he's like, okay, and so we get up, we're getting ready for Sabbath school. I don't know what's going through my head, but for some reason I decided to ask him the question of, honey, what do you think about me? Like, what do you think about when you think of me? where this question came from, I don't know. And my husband says, he looks kind of puzzled for a minute, kind of like, we said we were getting ready for Sabbath school, and I pulled out my clothes, and I'm getting myself together for Sabbath school. How did we get to this question? Because I'm focused on this. I'm focused on getting ready for Sabbath school, and now you're asking me this complex question. And so immediately I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to answer the question now. And he's like, I'm just trying to get ready for Sabbath school. I said, it's okay, hon. I get it. I get it. You can answer that question another time. Don't even worry about it. Yeah. So, yeah, again, just very convicting on how they are wired. They're wired so differently than us. Like, we could have that conversation and move on to the next complex question, and we can go from one thing to the next and not think, give it a second thought, and still be getting dressed.
Yeah.
And he's like, my focus is here. I can't, I can't. Well, and again, I think it goes back to what she says in the book in terms of they want to be able to give an intelligent answer, and they just can't come up with it on the fly like that. They really need time to kind of process it, mull it over a little bit, and then come back and actually have.
And when you say intelligent answer, what do you mean?
Well, so they don't sound silly or say
Also
something.
hurt your feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Especially in the heat of an argument.
Exactly.
Like, they need to pull away because they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Right.
So let them pull away, process it mentally, and then come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We have to think about what we're even talking about.
Right.
Because as women, you're just like, you're processing as you talk and you're saying all this stuff. And it's just like, okay, I need time to think even about what was just said.
Right.
And then determine how I feel about it and then come back and actually be able to articulate it. Because that's the other thing. One of the examples that she gave is that the guy said, well, I can go back and process it and figure out like how I came to this conclusion and decide. But if you now want me to articulate it, you need to tell me that in advance, because then I need to add that to my process. Because I didn't add that. I just figured it out on my own and was like, oh, I'm going to do this. But now you're asking me to explain, and I'm just like, okay, you didn't give me that assignment. Like I didn't know I had to do that. So all of that for us is just kind of like, I mean, that just seems like a lie. How come you can't do it the way we do it? It's like talking, and it's like, oh, that popped in my head. But I think, I mean, first of all, that's who we want. God made them differently, and we want them. And so it's like now we have to learn how to navigate that.
One thing you said, you like said, we're thinking out loud. I'm glad she said it too clearly. That a lot of times our talking is us thinking out loud. And I would tell you plenty of times my husband goes, pause. Can you either give me the bullet points or what things you really want to get right now? You're like, no, because I was ready to fix problem one and you're going and I told multiple stories. And then he's like, so bring it back to us. What part of this I need to fix? Because I'm like, no, but I was just saying, like, maybe one day I may try to. And he'd be like, but it makes you think. Right. Like, yes, we can think something like, I'm sorry. So I did this actually with the AV guy the other day, Sean. I said, Sean, I'm just let you know right now, I'm thinking out loud. So once I get to the end of this, I'll tell you what thing I really think. And now I know. I was like, let me say that. But in the arguments, that's one thing I said in reading the book, that and not just in the argument, disagreement, there's sometimes where my mode is I really wanted to resolve it now. And him saying, let's not talk about this. Right. It was really just a way of saying, oh, let's not. Can we come back to this later? Was really a good thing. It's a healthy thing to say, let me come back to this. But me, especially in the beginning, I was pushing, no, we need to talk about it right now. The Bible says, and she says this too, don't go down, don't let the sun go down on your anger. You know what I mean? But it's like, to that point, he may not even been as angry. It's just the fact that now I keep pushing.
Right. He's really angry.
Nobody go to sleep. Nobody go to sleep. So it's like, okay, take heed to that too. And I think, and we talked about this. Actually, Tracey did a presentation on communication. It's not that we're not going to talk about it. Let's table it, but let's make a point to come back to it. So that would, and for me, just my whole communication style or our upbringing, I felt like, okay, we'll talk about it. You're abandoning me in this moment. So we've learned to choose to also say, hey, I love you. I'm not going nowhere. But let's come back to this. Like, let's come back to it. I don't think it's going to be healthy for us to continue this conversation on. So I like that she brought this point out that, but getting to is not even a moment of him rejecting me or saying, I don't want to talk about it. He really needs to pull back from the situation. And whether that be take a walk or sleep on it or whatever, let him do what he needs to do to process it, to come back together. Because again, we chose each other. We want the best for each other. And to your point, this will help the whole marriage be safe for both of us.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that she said was that, like, from a woman's standpoint, I want to talk about it right now, right? And if he talks about it with me right now, I feel like he loves me. Well, she was saying that when he walks away, that's his way of saying, I love you. Because we can't have this conversation now, you know, based on the fact that I haven't thought through it, or I don't want to say anything to hurt you. So those, in all of that, get understanding. And I think that helps, you know, as well, to know that in advance when these conflicts or whatever are.
I think and we have to be intentional. You had talked about safe spaces, but we also have to be intentional about creating brave spaces. So, like, yes, you know, you can come back and talk about it, and we need to cultivate the culture of our relationship that we can say the hard things. And it's still going to be okay. You know, and that's not something that I'm good at. You know, it's you know, kind of a work in progress for our marriage, but it's a combination of the two. You know, you want to create a space where, you know, if we go away to process or what have you, and we come back together, we're going to have that real conversation. It's not going to be a situation where we try to, you know, just kind of float on and kiss and make up and everything is good. Like, we got to talk this thing out, because otherwise, if it comes up again, it becomes that, you know, recurring issue.
Absolutely.
What's interesting is I was going to say, I hope that I marry someone who is like a woman, because I don't like to talk about it right now.
Me either.
I like to go process and hide and then come back to it.
Or not.
Because, so I'm like, I need someone who's coming after me. You know? So what about men are visual? I had some thoughts about this. This to me was really interesting, because of course we've heard that a million times, and I've always said, well, I have eyes too. What I don't understand when you say men are visual. It's like, yeah, I want the person that I'm with to look nice too. I like attractive things or whatever. So what does that mean? And she's the first person that ever was able to explain. Well, I guess they explained it to her, because she didn't understand it either. What does that mean? And the fact that their brain is actually made differently, and there's like a what is that? It's like a amygdala. It's not the amygdala. It's something else. I forgot the name of it, but that's in their brain that's different than ours, and it lights up when they see an attractive woman. And so now they're ours. It's an automatic response. And like she gave the example of when you're hungry and you walk into a room full of food, you have a response. But it's an automatic response, immediate, but then there's a choice that has to be made. Right. And so that to me was absolutely fascinating. And I think that opens up a whole lot of things around relationships and the health of that. And of course, she was clear to say that men who want to honor their women have learned how to turn away or do something else, baseball stats in their head, whatever it takes to get that image out of their mind. But it opens up the whole question of modesty, and as we as sisters in Christ, how do we present ourselves to protect our brothers as much as possible? But it certainly opens up this idea of how do you walk with that when you know that's true about your husband? He's trying to do right, but then you may have your own insecurities that might be, around and triggered or whatever. So maybe talk about that, somebody.
I think that also goes back to the brave and safe space. Like, so if you know that about about men, then it should be a conversation. It
Yeah.
it should be something that you talk about. But you also have to trust. You have to trust that your husband has the best intentions and not project insecurities, right? And so as for women, like our insecurities run the gamut. It's not just about him looking at someone else; it's about him not looking at me. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Right. And so like those and so not projecting that, because in when we do that, then we really do create an environment that increases their vulnerability. So we have the responsibility of making sure that we are dealing with our stuff in a way that is not negatively impacting them.
And so even where I've seen women doing things during the pandemic specifically, where the wife is doing something grand for the husband, you've had some people rejoice, but you had a lot of our strong-minded women being like, she shouldn't be doing that, and he should be doing that for her. There's been a huge paradigm shift when you do see women trying to do the romantic thing or being above and about. Why is she bringing him breakfast to bed? And why is she, the wife, you're seeing her help, she has the husband's shoes ready, different things. Those are romantic things that he's not having to look for. So it's taken I would say, my love language acts of service a step further, where it may not be that, the laundry's done or everything he needs is there, but greeting him with the kiss in the morning, is a newspaper with it, or hey, babe, here's your robe, but also making the point to recognize that doing something fun is romantic. So one of our first dates was bowling. So just us talking about that, I was like, I'm surprised and playing a bowling game next week, just to kind of get us back out there.
Right.
It's one, we also a little competitive when they come to each other.
Because live, loving, married, wise, and make an impact.
I was like, we're going to bowl it next week. I'm making a date. I'm planning it because, again, it's another form also of me initiating and not him just saying, you want to go out? What do you want to do? So I thought that was just great to realize.
And showing an interest in what they enjoy.
Yes.
My husband loves cars. And he gets so excited and so passionate about, vehicles. And, he just wants to, let me show you this one and let me show you this one. And, and again, for him, that's quality time. That's romance to him. That makes him feel good that I'm showing an interest in what he enjoys.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be grand gesture. Like you said, it depends on your spouse. It depends on what they like.
It's also rediscovery.
Yes.
Something here now. I'm like, what is Ben passionate about now? Like, what would be his thing now?
Yes.
And I don't know that I know that. And so like that is a goal for me. I need to rediscover that. I mean, because we are moving at warp speed all the time. Doing all the things, but not doing the thing.
Right.
And so it's like, let me find out. Let me find out what it is that would be his thing now. I mean, I would say my husband does spend a lot of time asking me things like, man, what's your favorite food? And I'm like, we know what my favorite food is. It's whatever you cook. Cook, I'm finna eat. Like that's but it doesn't always click to me that he is, and probably really until like today-year-old, like he's rediscovering.
Yes.
And because another thing is because I do switch a lot. Like one day I'm vegan and the next day I'm not. We gonna keep it a stack, and so he's constantly trying to figure out like who my wife is today. And I need to be doing the same thing for him.
Right.
And I think that as a single person, what I want to, I think this is from one of those movies, Facing the Giants, one of those movies about getting fireproof. Getting a PhD in your spouse.
Yes.
Like most people have like a GED.
Right.
It's like, you got a long way to go, bro. You got a long way to go, sis. But it's like all those things that were so interesting about them that made you want to be with them, there's so much more.
Right.
And then you just give up on trying to find that out because, of course, life is life. But, I said to them on Sunday, I might have sounded a little frustrated, but in a sense I was, but I'm just like,
So you can't find an hour to spend with the person that you said you're going to spend the rest of your life with? You can't find an hour of 24 hours in a day, even if you got to get up early. And they took that, they resonated with that, and she was like, because they have to do takeaways at the end. And one person said, she's like, that was really powerful to me. That I don't take time. 30 minutes. I said, let's start with 30 minutes, but you can't find an hour? Come on. And so I think if we took that time daily, some of these things wouldn't be as much of a surprise. There's still some things that they may not just even know to articulate, because there's some of these things they thought, well, women already know that. They just, and that's an interesting point, because then it becomes, you know it, but you're just ignoring it. You just going, you just wilding out over here, as opposed to, no, we don't know that.
Right.
We just found that out right now. And I'm going to go tell the world. But we just found that out. So,
yeah. Add to that time thing, because right what you're talking about, hippie was that time apart also takes you back to the Garden of Eden. The serpent didn't just get Eve because they were together. That time apart.
Say something right there, girl.
I was like, think about how much this time apart does to your relationship, where we're spending so much time apart. You know, and not just time apart. Him scrolling. Because I would tell you,
you be in the same room and be apart.
And be apart.
Right.
And we're not even learning. So for instance, maybe 3 years ago, because I was on Instagram for a while, because I was like, I'm getting some older on Facebook. But I was like, my feed looks totally different to y'all's. Ain't no people and other. So depending on, he's like, well, these are my friends. And I was like, okay, what? So because the algorithms and all this stuff. So I was like, well, you need to shift, start liking like what I like. And he's like, it's my friend. So we had that conversation, right? But recognizing what this world looks like today, people think because we're sitting together in the same room, we're spending time together. That disconnected time, the devil is helping to play. He's over here. And things we're not communicating as the white man. I can tell you I've done it. I'm holding on to it. And it's becoming resentment, or it's becoming a place of, once I do have the bravery to say it or whatever, all these assumptions and things are going unsaid because we're sitting here, but we're not really talking. And so all that time apart, we've got a good example in the Garden of Eden of what that does. And we know the enemy, how he wants to divide, he wants to steal, kill, and destroy. And if he can also break my marriage up, it ain't just going to affect us. It's generational. And so my husband and I came to, the Holy Spirit came to this last year about this, of the fact that we talk about breaking generational curses. And if you're at anybody's church, you hear people talking about it, but they're talking about generational woe. Money can come always. But what is the legacy we're setting up for our kids as far as marriage? And foundationally, you have that sin. Because also Christ loves us. This is the bridegroom is coming. So recognizing that the first God or Jesus that my kids see is coming from my husband, right? So what if I'm disrespecting him? What do they say? Okay? Wow. What if he's not loving me the way I need to be loved? So this is all they're
learning about God.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? So all these things we have to be mindful of.
You have to pick up an offering now.
It all ties into that. And so that's my mindset when I look at generational wealth. Them seeing a healthy marriage, them seeing a healthy version of mom, a healthy version of dad, how we communicate with each other, how we grow together, how we have conflict and we resolve it. Them seeing us hug and kiss each other and knowing it's a healthy thing. Us having things. We tell our kids we have date night, we're out, and they know it. At first I was feeling a little bit like, oh, we're leaving the kids. And now I'm so over that. I love it. Because we raised them, they become an empty nester. And let me tell you the sad thing, and then I'll move on. I've seen so many marriages dissolve when they become empty nesters. Because all these years you have not spent time knowing each other, connecting, evolving, seeing what we like, rediscovering each other,
growing
the whole day. And so you spend all this time grinding. She talks about it in the book too. You grinding financially. and you also are grinding this marriage to like a dead tree
Right.
stump to the ground. All right, I'm done.
Hey,
Okay.
them were some
Do
words,
you have any
sis.
thoughts, Renee? Or
No, church was in session.
well, let's end on men are providers. Men are providers. Is there anything? You know, we hear that all the time. Men to provide and protect, and a lot of times that obviously focuses on the finances, which is part of this as well. But did you have any revelations or anything new that came to you, Tracey?
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
and then Ebony.
My husband, he values that so much. And so when we read in the book that men often equate showing their love to their spouse by being a provider. And I'm just like, okay, that is 100% my husband. Because, you know, he works very hard and he values, you know, taking care of his family. That's very important to him. And then, you know, again, I think one of his love languages is giving gifts. So, you know, he feels like I'm providing for her in this way as well. And, you know, I know you mentioned the book for men only as well. And it's interesting how in that book, it talks about women feeling like I would give up financial security in order to have relationship security. And men are the opposite. Men are like, no, I'm loving you by providing for you. And so it's just so interesting, you know, how we may think a little bit differently on that, but to just respect each other on that point and make sure that we're, you know, providing for each other in that way, like allowing him to show his love in that way. But then, you know, him also, you know.
I actually would love for us to do another one about for men only, and actually have Hayden come on and part of that conversation. I wanted him to be, but because we were gonna actually be in the same place, and then obviously it wouldn't work anyway. So I'm glad I didn't have him on standby, but I would love to do that. And I think that that's the understanding that balance, that this is how he's thinking, this is how you're thinking. Now that we understand how each other are thinking, how do we bring that together so that we have a cohesive and we're not battling each other? Because one of the important things that she talked about in here was that, you know, the wife is saying, I want you to spend more time. The husband is saying, but I got to work in order to provide all of this. And he's stressed out trying to find that balance. I mean, some people obviously overdo it. We're not talking about being a workaholic because that's not healthy for him or the marriage. But a lot of times, especially if you're in corporate or if you have your own business, you know, you have to, but it's like finding that balance and understanding. You don't want to nag, but you also want to encourage and help him grow to the point where we can find that balance, because our marriage still matters. While you providing for the marriage is falling apart. You know, but then I don't want to be like, okay, well, you don't need to go to work at all because we ain't saying that.
Definitely not saying that.
So anyway, anyone else?
Yeah, my husband is like provider, right? I mean, that has been provider and protector has been his a major part of his identity. You know, all the time, the entire time that I've known him, 26 years, 28 years together, and even before we were married, when he decided that we would get married and I would be his wife, because that's kind of how it went. He started at then. You know, he was making sure that I was taken care of. He was making sure that I was, behaving appropriately. And what I mean by that, I was very feisty, very like, you're not gonna tell me, and I got all the words and all the things. And he was like, that's not how we roll. That's not gonna work in our relationship. And I'm like, trying to tell me what to do, and that's not gonna work in our relationship. Like, my responsibility is to provide for you and to protect you. And sometimes I gotta protect you from yourself. if you out here, not acting appropriately, or you're out here, talking a certain way to me like that, I have to protect you from the destruction of our relationship, And so I didn't have understanding of that, but he is a provider. Like, he is going to work, he is going to work, and he is going to work, period. And I didn't understand. I felt like I had some understanding, but really, it really was solidified with the book. And I didn't have an understanding of how important it is, and how ingrained it is in who he is, how it is constantly 25/8 on his mind. Like, period. When he is breathing, he is thinking about provision.
Right.
That's it. And as a wife, I'm like, I mean, yeah, I get that, but I need you. I need you by my side. I need you as my partner in life. And he's like, yes, and I can't do that if I'm trying to provide.
Yeah.
I can't do that to the degree. I can't be present to the degree that you may feel like I need to be, because I have to provide. And I'm still kind of understanding that and learning that. But what I have learned for sure from the book is I need to be affirming him in that.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to be affirming him as the provider. So he is not going out here, grinding, particularly if my husband is, self-employed. He out here grinding and thinking that my wife doesn't understand. Like, she doesn't appreciate, she wants things her way. And so I need to be intentional about that affirmation of, I see you. And I have an understanding of why this is so important to you.
Right.
I think appreciation is a great word. Because I think there's just some things that we're never going to understand, in the sense, because we don't get that way. We think relationally, I mean, part of the, back to the Garden of Eden, after the fall, part of the curse was the sweat of your brow. Is how you're going to make money, essentially.
Right.
And for women, it was like, you're going to be stretching out toward your husband. Your desire is going to be with him. So we're stretching out to him, and he's stretching out over here trying to get, because the world has said there that you get paid not just financially, but you get affirmed.
Yeah.
Your value comes from that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the curse, is having to, is both of us being that way. I'm stretching to him and he's stretching over there. But then part of the blessing is God saying, no, I need you to love her.
Yes.
No, I need you to respect her, because it makes us turn toward each other. And so when we do that, then we have a little bit of heaven on earth that God said that we are able to. Right.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna let everybody give final thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up. And it's just been fantastic.
This has been great. I want to answer the provider thing, because my husband's a big provider. And I would say, we early on, I had all the words. Part of it was is upbringing, coming from not much. So it's like, I gotta grind, I gotta make, and I never want to be this poor again and never be there. But then understanding too, how it is really ingrained in them. I was like, okay, wow, this is deeper than that. Now, and now I will say there was the point of us still having a conversation that was both, but specific to him. Now, once we come home, or once we're on a date or whatever, like, some point work has to shut off. So to have that healthy balance, that we do understand that about them, but there needs to also be a balance.
Right.
At some point, because listen, I've been on a job literally where they got Tuesday, the justice cleaned out Wednesday. By Friday it was cleaned out and everything, because Monday a new person was there. And so take the PTO. Them talking to men, take the sick days. Because your family needs you.
Right.
So even all that grinding and providing for your family, take that time. And I have to tell my husband, even when he comes home from work, the kids don't necessarily need a lot of your time, but that quality time, like, even if it's 10 minutes undivided attention, that's all they need. They're like, oh, I love you, Dad, bye.
But there's this man ain't that
They're like, okay, well, 12 minutes that waiting. But understanding that, we still have to have the balance on that side of it too. And then other thing, to any woman listening, just saying, well, he only got this little job over here. It ain't a little job, baby.
Yes.
Right.
For this man, he is working.
Yes.
Respect that, honor that. And I'm going to tell you, if you are behind him, supporting him, there's nothing you will not do.
Yes.
My husband will tell y'all see him, he's very honest. He's where he's at now because I was behind him every step of the way. And that behind him sometimes meant I was not going to work. Like we had the budget, so I could be home so he could pursue his dream. We even relocated for his dream. But we're seeing he in his stage now. But you got to get behind him. If this is your person, it ain't no little job.
Right.
Whatever he's doing, respect him, honor him in that, because that will give him that respect. Pushes them further. Oh, babe, you at KFC? Oh my gosh, you employee of the month support that. Wherever that is, humble beginnings, whatever it is, you can make it help. And if you didn't want the KFC guy, don't date him to begin with. But thing is, whatever he's doing, support him because it will pay off and it will make him feel like he can do any and everything because you are behind it.
Excellent.
I think that just reminds me of what Renee said when she talked about just that women do have a lot of power
Yes.
in how they become, who they become, and how far they go, and how happy they are, and all of these things, and vice versa. We'll talk about that. Pastor Leggett, the one I was telling you about, he says that if a husband loves and cherishes his wife, there is literally nothing she can do. But if we respect and honor our husband, there's probably nothing he won't do for us.
Right.
Because we're all seeking to be built in a place where we have a void.
Right.
But when someone feels that, then it's such a blessing. Ebony, you have some final remarks or thoughts?
I think that Anita's points are really, really convicting for me, and that it needs to be daily that I am recognizing and supporting and making sure that the support that I'm giving my husband is the support that he needs. First is like, I think, oh, well, he has this going on, so I should do this. But he has this going on, so I should do that. But doing the things that he has said, this is what support looks like for me, doing those things, and really being intentional about it. And, and sometimes, sis, you gotta fall back. Like, yes, your needs are important. Like nobody's, not trying to say that they are not. And sometimes you gotta fall back so that energy that you have, you can put that towards supporting us. Yeah.
Yeah. For particular those. You don't know what you don't know. And it comes to relationships. Now I know that there's so much to learn about the male female dynamic. We are so different in the things that we do, the way that we think, way that that's the same thing. But we're so different, and it would behoove a lot of men, young and old, to take the time to get some understanding on the men. I mean, because like you said in this book,
Okay, welcome back. Can you hear me, Hayden? I have my Bluetooth in.
I hear you fine.
Okay, awesome. Welcome back. I don't know if we were supposed to cut over that or not. We didn't get to hear Renee's final thought, but with that being said, I want to just take it over to you because we already had a lot to say. There's a couple of times I was like, these sisters should have gave me the church singer, like Anita, stop. But at any rate, it was a good experience for us when we did get together because we're always virtual. It was so great to be able to hug everybody. God moved in a mighty way that night because we did have an afterwise as well there with some of the ladies who were in the studio recording us and who were also married. And so they were blessed by the conversation we had. And even as we were there talking with each other, we all became convicted of different things that we had learned from the book. And so my question just to you, Hayden, is what are your thoughts about some of the things that you heard that was on that we discussed that day. And Tracey is also here. I don't see her video yet. I do notice that she is. Okay, there she is. Hey, Tracey. Thank you again, Tracey, for bringing that book to our attention and to all the other Live, Love, and Marry Wizerr viewers. So, Hayden, what some of your thoughts about the conversation you heard tonight?
Okay, so as I was listening to the conversation, a rap lyric popped into my head. So allow me. It says, "I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside a home." So also remember that Chris Rock talking about um, that women and pets and children are loved unconditionally, and men, if you're not bringing something to the table. So whether those things are all true or not, it's the cloud or the, I don't know if you want. It feels negative, but perhaps it's not. It's the lack of understanding what it's like to be a man, and that this guy, it's Dax. He has a whole song about it with Darius Rucker added some lyrics. Um, when I saw the video, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm vibing with this. And then when I read the comments, men in tears, um, um, writing about it, making videos about it, that we feel like we're not being understood by our spouse or by women. And I could say that that's absolutely true. Just feel so misunderstood. Um, but it doesn't matter. And it's weird how all you ladies were talking about men wanting to be providers, and that's how they see yourself. Like my last wife would ask me about myself, and I would always say I'm a hard worker, and she would say, "You say that every time." And I guess right now I'm thinking, why? Well, then why do you keep asking me that question? That's where that's where society has placed us, or we
Yeah.
have placed ourselves as men. I don't know, but if you ask me about myself, even to this day, I'm gonna say I'm a hard worker because I know that there's provisions that have to be made, and the balancing that with the time spent. I believe it was TD Jakes that said that if he's there all the time, you're not gonna be able to pay the bills. When he's gone, you're gonna miss him and want him to be there. I'm paraphrasing that remark, but also when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, yeah, because we that's where I am, and I'm guessing just based on the reactions here, that's where most men have positioned themselves. Now, in our new what we're doing now, what society's doing now, and the passport bros and the young men today, they don't want to do that. They feel like women are coming after them for their money. They don't
Mhm.
want they don't want that to be first and foremost. They're looking for something different. I don't know what it is. I'm not there, but yeah. So I did enjoy the conversation. I like the light bulb moments that you ladies were having. That wait a second, and I will say this too. Um, I am emotional, but I'm not allowed to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole point of the book is so that women can have a greater understanding of who men are, because Hayden, it sounds like you're saying that, yeah, most people don't understand the complexity of who men are. And I think that book, it was very enlightening. And, again, for I think maybe some single women who might read the book, or certainly married women who might read the book, it may make a difference in their relationships if
Yeah.
they want to take the advice given in the book, or try to relate to their spouse or the man in their life differently. Because again, you are human. You should be allowed to be emotional and still also be a provider. If that's inherently a part of your nature, then it's certainly okay for you to be both. And I think the whole purpose of the book is for women to um perhaps be a little bit more enlightened, to try to view him in a different light, try to be more understanding of who this person is.
Agree. I totally agree. And other points that I will, so I will just say right now, I'm a changed woman because of the book. Like I said, between there definitely was some aha moments, and God was just also reaffirming some things that my husband may have already said, but it just hearing it in a different way, and to hear that all these other men that they surveyed, here was the same thing they all had in common. I was just like, man, this is a real deal. This is a real thing of how men are made up, and how and what they want. And you are emotional creatures, and because God made us all that way. We also know culturally sometimes, and as men, um, us all actually, sometimes there's the emotional constriction that happens from a young age, stopping a young boy from crying. Men don't do that, right? And things of that nature, not allowing you to fall, like, even if you are hurt, not to show it. And then you expect this grown man who's had all that emotional constriction his entire life. Now you're married. Hey, stop all that. Now become vulnerable. Open up and pour out all of your feelings to me. It's hard. It's a hard thing. But I appreciate, again, the lessons we learned. What are your thoughts about the romance part? I was shocked at the percentage of men who said, I think it was 86% of men in one of the categories, because the book also has different. She'll give you the data in the on that particular chapter, and it was like 86% of men like romance, and not always at the way we like to see it, in the movie, where he's coming with the flowers and setting the romantic dinner, but just the parts of doing stuff together. What were your thoughts about that, Hayden?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think that it's all times that we are crossing paths to try to find that. Let me tell you something. One of my favorite movie scenes of all time is the wedding scene in Crazy Rich Asians. And for me, this is romance. Just going. This is taking it beyond anything we can imagine. But in my mind, oh, I could never do that. Or if or ugh, whatever my failed attempts have been. So when you are criticized, it doesn't help
Yeah.
you to go on. And that's in addition to something else I think you said, Anita, is that or both of you guys said, when I'm spoken to, asked a question, um, accused, or if anything's aggressive, it's over. I shut down. I'm gonna get back to you, but definitely not right now.
Yeah.
And then you can't answer my question. That type of stuff. Yeah, I can't do that. So in both of those situations, also how I felt romance. You want romance. That's what you've been saying or complaining about. And when I give you my version, you're not 100% with it, but you can't bring some romance yourself. If you want romance, I I'm coming along if you're going to plan it. No,
Yeah.
um, you men, and we look at Valentine's Day, which is a man's
Yes.
holiday to take care of the woman, and not the other way around. Um, I think I have some scars. I gotta snip this up.
But no, but you made a good point there, because it has been so commercialized, right? That, and it's all about the men giving the woman, winning her over with his grandiose gifts, sending flowers to work or whatever, bringing the box of chocolates, whatever, getting jewelry, and I mean, of course, retailers, they love it. They love that you're going to spend. I forget how many billions to spend for Valentine's Day. It's just like Christmas almost, but
the women could spend those billions too.
exactly, the
Maybe
women can
half
spend
a
it.
billion.
Yeah. So, ladies, I encourage you to do that. So we have, from the beginning, I've always given my husband Valentine's gift. And then we also incorporate something small for the kids, but I always give him something. I mean, it could be something that he needs, but maybe make it a little bit more fun and festive if it's going to be, dealing with the holiday. First of all, we need to show love every day anyway. But if you're going to celebrate it, it should be both ways, not just all on him to do all of the romance. And again, getting out and doing fun things, I think it helps you learn your spouse. But if men do see that as an activity, the wife going to play golf with him or going bowling or choosing to, like Tracey said, her husband loves cars, going to a car show, even initiated it. If she's seeing that there's a car show coming to town, she's already bought the tickets. That will, win her over her husband in a major way, because she thought about him, right? We all want to be thought about and considered in the relationship. So doing those things, and it doesn't even sometimes involve spending money. It could be as simple as, babe, when you come home, let's take a nice walk. Or I've packed a picnic lunch for us, your favorite, tuna sandwich, and let's go. And because again, he wants to know that you're thinking of him. And that's what some of the points I took away from the book, is that you want to know you're being thought of as well. You're being considered and your feelings matter while you're out here trying to be a provider and such. Tracey, you have anything to add to that?
Well, I wanted to ask, is romance important to you? Like, is that something that you would want, that you value? Like, this is something that you would want your woman to bring to you, like you said.
That's a good question. I have to really I have to go to the opposite. If I don't get romance, am I upset? And absolutely not. For me, I would say romance is the 401k, the house cleaned. That's what builds me up. That's so I mean, just the everyday grind, coming home and the children are, there were times that I used to work late at night. I worked till 11 o'clock at night, and I would come home and kids are asleep. The house is in decent order. That gets me going.
So clearly romance is different for men and women.
Yeah. But having time to spend, with one-on-one, doing something special, that's also important too. Right. Probably not, it's down on my list as far as what romance is.
Yeah, that's cool. And I hear you, because I mean, for me, if we both get out of the bed, he gets out of the bed last, and I come back to a made up bed, that's romantic to me. I'm like, woo, he made that bed. Look, and he put the throw pillows on there, even though he's like, why do we have these pillows? We don't sleep on them. But like, that's extra.
That is extra.
I'm glad you said that, because I find in my life, there are things in my relationships that I didn't understand that my wife would do. And that was fine. But if I did something that she didn't understand, there's trouble. It just seems like the questioning. I'm like, I see all those throw pillows. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. I'm moving on. I hate to say it because it's become so cliche. Yeah. Is that like men? It's simple. It's just simple, and women have the more complicated. Like the Sabbath morning question. That's I've been there.
I've been there too. I was just like, He's like, I just was trying to eat my sandwich. What in the world?
Did something happen? What's going on here? Did I forget to do something?
Right.
That's funny.
Right. It definitely happens. The other one of the other points we brought up, because I don't think we got to all 8, but I found this to be interesting, was the fact of how men are wired, how there's an actual part of your brain that's wired about the visual and what happens when you do see a woman or see something that stimulates you. And I think not Renee, I think Lorraine said something to the fact, we hear that all the time, men being visual creatures and such. But hey, how can you like expound on that for us?
Okay,
About
well,
that?
there've been a couple. There's a woman that's a reporter. I can't remember now. She might be in Miami or I don't know, but she's very voluptuous. And there's been pictures of and videos of basketball players that are averting their eyes. They would not. They're listening to the question, answering the question, and because they know that and as men, that's what we do when we're with our spouse. Because well, that's what we. I was about to say that's what we should do. I'm not going to put that on anyone. That's what I would do. But in addition to that, and I think that even deeper part of it is, I think one of the other points is that men are visual and therefore women should do blank. I'm not 100 with that. When I'm in a relationship, I'm in that relationship, and it doesn't I don't care what size you are, because I'm committed. And there might be some negative part of that too. Yeah, there might be some. I can't find it, but my eyes may wander, but they're not wandering to do anything. I have a friend. He may watch this, but he told me this, that he would see a woman. He was a married man. He would see a woman on the side of the road. He's in the car by himself. Do a U-turn and see if she needs a ride somewhere. Me, I see a beautiful woman walking down the street, and I'm like, that's a beautiful woman walking down. And I've moved on with my life. It's 3-4 seconds. I'm not turning around to give her a ride because I'm committed to somebody else. I'm not committed to anyone right now, still not doing it. And, I see beautiful women all the time. Not doing it because that's who I am. Because I believe that's respectful. But some people would say, why would you? I've never had a woman say to me, why did you look at me or get mad at me because of the way I looked at her? Because maybe I'm so incognito, I'm under the radar. I'm so good at it, or I just don't take it to the disrespectful levels. I believe at all. So but we are visual. But and like I said, I'm not sure if this is good. That maybe sometimes your wife needs you to, or your girl needs you to give her feedback.
What kind of feedback?
I don't know, about her appearance, about whatever, about the visual. I'm just not there. I'm not there. I remember I said something about a woman that was heavy, and my wife said, "I'm that size," and in my mind, I was like, "You are."
Oh my!
I don't know. I'm not here to. I made a commitment to someone.
Yeah.
And I don't care what happens. And that might be there may be a problem. I'm sensing that there might maybe some sort of a problem with that. But I just don't. Whatever you are. My commitment is over that. My commitment covers that. I'm not being and this is legit me. I'm not making this up. It's legit me. I'm not concerned. So when they come back with feedback, well, how come you didn't say this or that, or what do you think about the dress, whatever? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not. If you ask me how you look, you better watch out because you want the honesty. Well, you asked for this. I not. I'm gonna give you the real feedback.
Okay. Well, women probably want, as Ebony has said, to be
Yes.
affirmed and complimented. For myself, if I ask my husband, how do I look? I always want his answer to be, you look amazing. No matter what.
Yes.
That's the answer
Yes.
I'm looking for.
For sure, and it's one thing, you also the simple stuff of, hey honey, I got spinach stuck in my teeth, things like that. You want to look out for you, but ultimately you want, as Ebony said, to be affirmed and complimented. The other point she made about the visual, though, which got me, was the fact of how men could see. She gave the example that she and her husband went out with some other couples, and the waitress that came over was voluptuous, and so the husband said he had to make a point, though, for the rest of the night. It's kind of like the way their minds are wired. Like, it literally, you have that memory, this light comes on when they first see her, and now they have to make it go out and try to make themselves not think about her for the rest of the dinner, knowing that she's in the vicinity because of the way they're wired. Not saying they're nasty men. These are men who love their wives. They're respectful, but just the way the body is wired. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was deep because it's like it can't even be controlled. I mean, it can be controlled, but like they have to actually, as the Bible says, take every thought captive. Mm-hmm. You have to really take the thought captive. It's not even a matter of he's seeing her and staring and lusting. It's just that the body, their brain immediately sees it and notices it.
So when I saw those two basketball players, I think there's even one with Steph Curry and a beautiful reporter. When I see that, my mind instantly says, dude had to turn that off, because that's what I would have to do to not acknowledge just with our eyes that we find you attractive. Yeah. Sometimes I used to say that there are times that even on the internet that you see the guys under the pretty girls pictures having to say something, and I'm like, I have to resist that sometimes.
Yeah,
I've never done it, but it's not. It's a I need to let her know she's pretty. But I'm like, nope, that's not who Hayden is. Mm-hmm. Although I feel I need to do it, I'm not going to do it. But other guys are just
so it's a choice, like again in the book, perhaps all men are kind of wired that way, to be visual and to notice, a beautiful woman, and that image may linger in their mind, but it doesn't mean that they're going to act on it, and so like the example you gave, you have a friend who would actually have to turn their call all the way around and kind of just pursue, where another man like yourself might be like, oh, of course, I have eyes. I saw this beautiful woman, and now I'm going to move on with the rest of my life. So it's all about a choice, even though you're visual.
So my wife, I'm not gonna say names. Anyway, she was a pointer outer. So when we were dating, I'm like, "Is this a trick? Are you trying to trick me?"
It is a trick.
But it wasn't for her. That woman's so beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm not saying anything about that. But by the end, we'd have these conversations. They were perfectly normal for us. A waitress, someone else. Oh, she's looking nicely. Did you see her dress? Oh, her figure is looking good.
Mm.
Yeah.
You said it, not me.
No, I hear you. My husband and I have code. We have code. So we may compliment. I may say a girl's looking good or something. It's been a while, but my it's a joke. The guy's never Craig, but I'm like, doesn't he look like Craig? Like he'd be like, who? That's code for him knowing, oh, I must think that person looks attractive. There's no
Oh,
lingering or nothing like that. But I'm like, is it like that Craig? We don't even know a Craig, okay? That's just the code. That's just the code. But yeah, keep your eyes on the prize.
yeah,
And
definitely.
ultimately, keep your eyes on your prize. And then ultimately, if your spouse is asking, how do I look? She definitely wants to be complimented. The one last one I want to ask you too, because we've had you guys on for a while, was what I also thought was interesting is that, I tell my husband I love him all the time, but I love the way they broke down how men said they'd rather be respected than love. I was just like, okay, they'd rather be respected than love. The way men view love is real more so out of the respect you give versus us having to feel them needing to feel love. What are your thoughts about that, Hayden?
I think it's if you really break it down, it's a respectful love. How
Mm-hmm.
you treat me, how you don't disrespect me when we're not around, how you speak of me, um, more so than hearing how much you love me. Um, it's how I don't want another guy thinking you don't respect me because that's going to give him entrance
Mm-hmm.
to our relationship. So the way you speak to me, the way you speak to me, especially in public, but also in private. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not respectful in your responses to me, not because I'm the boss, it's just this is how I'm made up. So if you disrespect me, you're going to get some silence. I have nothing to say. I don't want to deal with someone that disrespect me. I leave the house all day, um, and there's weird looks, this and that, dealing with employers, dealing with customers, and some of that has some levels of disrespect. And I control my mouth, I control my body because I have you at home, and so I'm making that sacrifice for you. So you just watch what you say to me.
Mhm. The book pointed that out exactly. The importance of men certainly being respected out in public with their wives. They were
Mm-hmm.
saying the damage that a wife could do to her husband by actually disrespecting him in front of other people. It's really poignant, and you certainly brought that point home, that when you're dealing with disrespect or the potential of disrespect throughout your entire day, you certainly don't want to deal with that. When you come home, you want that safe space, where your wife is honoring you and respecting you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I was gonna
and
say too.
remember the other episode that we were on? I forgot what it was about, where we talked about that woman that made the video about her husband was late for coming home from work,
Yes,
and she had cooked dinner and all this stuff, and he came in and she wanted to go off, but the Holy Spirit said to her, mm, "Mom's the word," and he's
yes,
like he melts in her arms and like, let me tell you how bad my day was. You
yeah,
know, that sometimes that's what it is. That's that, and if she had gone off on him, that's what he would have called disrespect. I
yeah,
had a rough day, tough time, and I come home to this. You
Mhm.
know, yeah,
yeah.
disrespect.
When it caused a rift in the marriage and the defenses to be up, for there to be a breakdown in communication and also anger between them too, that didn't really derive in the home. It came from how he felt at work. And that's what I was about to say, Hayden, before you spoke. That was, and women sometimes that respect means also that we're just keeping our mouth shut. That in this moment we're not saying I told you so.
Yeah,
We are honoring and supporting a decision that the husband is making, even if we can't fully see the vision of it, but we're supporting them and that vision. in that vision. And so that's showing respect as well, and making, it a safe space for him as well as home.
I think one of the important things is that when we're out in public and you support me, even in my foolishness, and then when we get in the car, if you softly say something about what I did, that could change a man. That could, I mean, because he's like, man, you could have sold me out there, but you
Mm-hmm.
agreed, and now your tone. Well, I don't know all men. Me, I'm a tone guy. If you're coming to me with a rough tone, I'm not hearing you. Um, you're wasting everything you're saying because I've shut it out. I've turned these off and whatever. But you don't have anything to say about what? What you were yelling? I don't know what you were talking about because I'm not listening. But I think, yeah, respect, and dealing with men, and even I would say this, since I brought that up. When a wife has a soft tone, the tone, she could say it, she could yell it, or she could say it with a soft tone. I'm taking a soft tone every time. It's going to make me think, rather than being scolded like I'm her child.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want any part of that.
Agreed. And again, another little tip we learned is my husband and I are both big jokers. Sometimes I may be a little, and actually, I still know I'm a little bit more guarded. Sometimes he may be about to tell the full story or something that may be a little. I don't. If we're not friends, I may have told him, but if I feel like it's about to go too embarrassing, we have a code word. If we're in public, and that's for both of us, both ways. It may be a code word or a little symbol of a,
Yeah,
may
yeah,
do that, kind of like pull it back in, because you know we don't want to get in the car with no hurt feelings. Everybody go home angry with each other because one of us went a little too far and made the other person not feel respected, right?
yeah.
So those are things you got to have a conversation about and even predetermine that. Now when we go in here, this is what it's gonna look like, So
That's how
have
it's
those
going to go
conversations.
down.
This is how it's gonna go down. Have your little jokes, but let's bring it back now. Let's bring it back. So,
So
but
I feel like this book is a good book. The question is, um, do we need the book for men? And are
yes,
are men having difficulty reading women, or is it just that women will tell you exactly what it is? And I think that's part of it. I just don't like how it's said, just. But if there's a book, I'll read the book just to.
well, Tracy, let them
There is a
know.
book. There is the book written by the same
Oh,
co-authors, the husband and wife, for men only. And so it kind of explains to the husbands or to the men more about women, and so that they can have a deeper understanding and appreciation for the women in their lives. So and it really does kind of go hand in hand. Actually, the author, she suggests that you read both, that
Yes.
you read, if you're a woman, read both books. If you're a man, read both books so that you can just kind of have a clear understanding of both sides. So yeah, there's definitely a book, and Lorraine talked about, having a discussion
yes,
regarding
she did. Yes, she
the
did.
four
I
men.
didn't know it was the same couple that wrote the
Yes,
book.
same
Yeah.
co-authors. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes, you got to get that Hayden so we can have you back on to discuss that. Maybe get a couple of more men assigned. I don't know. Maybe we can assign it to a couple of our husbands and they can be on and give their perspective. We'll see. We'll see.
That's a
But
good idea.
I've already added it to my Audible list, as well as they had one for parents only. So I added that too as well because I just like everything they've had to say. God has definitely blessed their ministry with
Yes.
being able to share from that perspective and really pull the information that we all need so that we can have
Mhm.
healthier relationships
Right.
overall. And I think Lorraine said it while we were together too, not just in this relationship with your spouse, but with friends and family members,
Mhm.
understanding them a lot better and kind of how how they perceive things and how they operate. It will just help us overall. So Again, I would like to thank you, Tracey, and Hayden, again, for being recurring guests. I would just like to call you recurring guest, aka host on the side. Our fearless leader, Lorraine, had to get off to go do another presentation. We already been praying that she be booked to capacity throughout this year, and it's seeming to be happening, so we love that.
Yes.
But we thank you all for joining us tonight on the Live, Love, and Mary Wizerr show. And until next time, we pray that you make choices that will help you to live, love, and marry Wizerr. And until next time, we'll see you.
All right. See you.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, guys.